Speaking of smooth,
all right.
I like a little smooth transition into the future,
Ooh.
also known as the Metaverse. Dun, dun, dun. Does anyone know what the Metaverse is?
The Metaverse. So this is the integration of augmented and mixed reality that allows you to see and perceive information in a different way.
Yeah. AR plus VR plus crypto.
Why do you always say crypto?
Because they have to build it on. I know. Yeah. Instagram crypto pappy. That's my name. That's what they call me. I didn't make the name. That's just what they call me in this crypto game. But
I have it on Texas that says, Dami, please call me by crypto.
Can you text everyone and tell them to call me crypto pappy from now on?
Go on.
No, Dami's our expert with a little augmented reality. He likes all his little VR headsets.
Yeah.
Basically, Space VR. But that's a smooth plug. Yeah. So then you basically the Metaverse is like the whole world is going to be 3D. So you put on this little VR headset and you look around. Does everyone remember the good game PokemonGo?
Oh, I refuse, man.
Yeah,
I refuse. I
love Pokemon. I had it on Game Boy and all that. I collected the cards, but I didn't play Pokemon.
After the first 100 Pokemon, I checked out.
After I caught them all, I was like, I'm not playing this anymore.
Yeah.
But it's like that. So PokemonGo, you walk around and on your phone, you can see, oh, look, there's a Pokemon over there. Oh, there's a Pokemon on Dami's knee. Let me catch it. But when you put on these goggles, it will be 3D. Everything there'll be a Pokemon sitting on my shoulder. This microphone might turn into a Pokemon, like all objects. This bottle will turn, this Calyx drink bottle will turn into like a flower or something. And then when you take it off, it'll be the bottle when you put on. So that's just all
this about. This is interesting, dude, because if you guys remember, I'm not sure if you guys were aware, but when Pokemon Go was a thing, there was actually an uptick in people getting into accidents because they would look down in their phones and then walk into the street and get hit by
cars.
So with this, like,
go to dangerous neighborhoods because
probably electric cars that don't have any noise.
Exactly, with no
driver and no steering wheels. Get hit by the first prototype Apple car.
An e-car too. You so quietly you won't see it coming. But I guess what I'm trying to say is with this like heads-up goggles, this augmented reality, at least as you kind of move around, hopefully you'll be able to see your surroundings. Yeah, and then that way you're aware of oncoming traffic or.
But I think that's a helpful clarification because so the augmented versus virtual is meant to be like you're completely enclosed. You only see the screen, whereas augmented is you are in an actual physical space, but there's stuff overlaid on.
Exactly. So then I guess mixed reality is what I should say, because you see what's in the real world, and then you get new images.
Exactly. But it's like that quickly, so it's going to have the best technology to make it instantaneous. So when I look at Dami, he looks like a cartoon. He doesn't look like Dami. So everything.
A very good-looking cartoon that resembles Idris Elba. You're saying. John Boyega, if you want to play me in a movie, that's all right too. Will Smith, I won't mind.
There's the next James Bond.
Oh yeah. Totally. I put my money in it. There was a April Fool's joke. Well, his voice. I think he's going to be James Bond on audiobooks. At least that's the deal that they post out in there.
He's very good.
But there's a joke. Let me not even say it too fully. What's his name now? The guy that hosted Saturday Night Live. What's his name? Trevor Noah. Yeah, there's a joke about how if James Bond was black, played by Idris Elba, it would be the shortest spy movie of life because let's say they send James Bond to Asia and he's doing espionage stuff. He has to run away from the bad guys. He like goes in the crowd and then the bad guy's like, where is he? Oh, there he is. And then he has to keep running. And he does that. Oh man. So James Bond would do well only in certain environments.
But there's this company called Niantic, and they are a spin-off of Google, and they're valued at like 9 billion now. That's how Google rolls. Their little spin-offs just blow up, and they just raised like 300 million to turn the whole world into like augmented reality. So like that's the project they're working on, and this big game called Second Life. I've never played it.
Second Life.
That is kind of like that's the kind of existence. I think it's like The Sims.
It is like,
but it's exactly a bit more like realistic. So that's kind of already the metaverse existing in like basic form, and people go in there and they like, I think they have a wife and they like go to the strip club and they go, I'm pretty sure they don't go to work in the Second Life.
Yeah.
I've already got
they
work.
Just live a GTA life.
They just live a GTA life, exactly. So I think, but anyway, the whole reason I brought up the metaverse, I think we had the internet and people kind of went a bit crazy, like started going the dark web and buying weapons, and like 98% of the internet's for porn or something like that. And then we had social media and people getting depressed and getting bullied, and like people getting like all these things are happening with social media, and people like losing sight of what's real and what's social media, and like doing it all for the gram and like putting on their chains, but in real life they've got to put it back to the pawn shop because it's just a rental, all that stuff. And now we have the metaverse coming. So what do we think that's going to do to society? When I don't think we're ready for it, but like if your like girlfriend cheats on you, can like fine, I'll just go to my girlfriend in like my VR, and then people spend more and more time on it, and I feel like it'll be like one of the like the Matrix. We're all going to end up in the Matrix.
I mean, that's what it sounded like when I was reading about it.
Yeah, it's just we're all going to be plugged in this and going, oh, and you can't die, you can't get hurt there, so you might as well just go crazy there.
This actually reminds me, because I'm a big cinephile, and there are a lot of movies that kind of play into this. So Ready Player One, Steven Spielberg, he talked about it. Gamer with Gerard Butler.
That's a great film.
That's
a great film.
So that Second Life was actually in there. And then, what's that new one with Ryan Reynolds? Nice Guy, New Guy? What's
Nice Guy? I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, so exactly. They all talk about like, trying to, well, I guess Nice Guys more about AIs and taking over, and a lot of people spending time there. But how society will be affected as a whole? I guess what the movies are really trying to say is people either become very complacent and very lazy, and society would just fall apart kind of thing. We won't see healthy people. Like if you guys remember WALL-E, everyone was just really big and fat because everything was automated. It was brought to their comfort of their home and right to the doorstep. With Metaverse, I can definitely see it being as a tool. Yes, it could work to allow people to experience life that they might not really be able to experience.
Go to China, Imagine walking down Times Square if you can't afford to go to America.
Exactly. Or even go to the moon, pretend you're on the moon and jump around like Neil Armstrong, if that allegedly did happen.
Controversial.
But
is there still flat?
Is it flat? You're one of them, eh? Okay. But I think what I'm also trying to say is it can be a tool for good, but if we become too complacent and too reliant on it, the life that we know now, it could definitely lead us to a very dystopia society kind of thing, right? So I'm for it because I'm a tech guy, but to the point where it's going to lead to society to just fall on its knees, I think that we're like at least 2 or 3, hopefully 3 or 4 generations before that happens.
Look at how quickly we crumbled with lockdown. Like, so obviously we were like going out doing exercise. First lockdown, I was just partying, but after that I started doing exercise, started trying to do productive things. People like making bread, whatever. And like, but the kids who like had not really lived a full life and like hadn't been outside, hadn't graduated school, they were just like boom, like Zoom, like social media and like Netflix, and that was it. And they were locked in. And then when they ended, a lot of them are still like social media, phone, locked in. Like a lot of us are, but they're like heavily like locked into everything online and Squid Games and everything, like all their little, so TikTok. That's what I was thinking. I was like, there's one that's really bad, the evil one, TikTok. So that's got all the next generation's all TikTok heads, and they'll do the little dances. And so I think that the metaverse will probably just make us all super lazy. But the cool thing is for you, marketing, you can advertise in the metaverse.
You can advertise in the metaverse and get your kids to show you how to do it. They'll be in their generation of, they'll know it. They're like, what's Facebook? They'll be like, I'm all about the metaverse.
So I get to go into this alternate reality where I still have to watch advertisements. Is that what
you have to, because people buy land, and then once it's at land, Coca-Cola might you've got like Times Square in the metaverse. You bought it for like $500,000 when it was cheap. Now it's like worth 50 mil. Can we put a poster in your Times Square so everyone that goes into Times Square in the metaverse sees a poster of like Durex or whatever it is, like because they paid for. Hey, Durex is in safe sex, kids. Hashtag safe sex. Anyway, what do you think?
I think, as a Christian, I think ultimately we're body and spirit, and I think there are ways that technology really supports how we do our relationships. I think we're relational by design. So, like before I married my wife, we actually only ever lived in the same city for about 6 weeks. So our whole pre-marriage relationship was primarily digital, which was challenging. And I was
different countries or different cities.
Yeah, so I mean, we lived in different cities. So I was in I was in Manchester for my MBA. She lived down south, so we still saw each other. So I'm making it sound like we saw each other, but it's just that gap was bridged through technology. So it's really useful. I mean, I have family that live in the US that I would not otherwise be able to engage very well without technology. So I think technology is very, very helpful. But at the end of the day, you're never going to be able to replace real life. And I think for people that maybe struggle with relationships or loneliness, I think something like this, it has perhaps temporal value, but I think ultimately it only accentuates their loneliness and their lack of engagement with socializing with others. Because at the end of the day, like, real life is just better. I mean, that's what I think. And it's not that you can't have fun.
Live the real life.
Yeah, totally.
If you're like, this is real life, which a lot of people do if they're younger, then you don't really know what you're missing. You're like, oh, I could go outside, but it's cold outside.
Yeah.
Not knowing that if you go outside and you go meet your friends, you're going to have this experience, but you never know because you've never been outside. You're just like, oh, I'm chatting to them online because I'm still chatting to them. I'll play PlayStation with them online and we'll talk on the headsets. And it's like, I've been with them all night.
Well, I think one of the other things, though, is because the internet has completely reshaped the way in which we communicate oftentimes. Like, so I'm kind of broadly saying internet as in text messages, emails, instant messenger, stuff like that. Does that even exist anymore? Social media, social media, right? But I think the problem with something like this as well, like Metaverse, and just even what we currently have now is, if you don't like what someone has to say or who they are, you can just easily find someone that thinks and looks and acts exactly like you. And it doesn't force you to actually relate to people in a meaningful way. So if I basically enter and live in the digital world, I don't have to have, in theory, because it's impossible to avoid conflict, but I don't have to have as much conflict if I'm dealing with the person who has loud music above me or the person living across the corridor, the people around me. So I want to grow up where I actually know my neighbors' names. I want my children to, have friends and family that live near. You know what I mean? And it's not to say that people who have relationships over online, let's say, those can't be meaningful. But ultimately, if that is only where our relationships are, then that's a problem. Whereas if it's a supplement, if it's a help to enable deeper, more meaningful relationships, great, I'm all for it. But I just think that it probably amplifies what we're experiencing already that is problematic.
I feel like humans can't be trusted with my great power comes great responsibility.
Wow. That's right.
And we're just like power.
As Peter Parker's uncle once.
Not the guy that makes rice.